So I wasn't very clear in the last clip about that facade generation, the surface itself, and it's a surface by loft based on cross sections, the three cross sections that we generate, and it's summed up by the list creation, by the use of a list create. So we took the top, the midspan, the sine wave, and the bottom one, and create those three NURBS curves. And actually, it looks like if you look at the list, we have a poly, a NURBS, and a poly, but it accepts those all as cross-sectional values, and then generates our surface from that. So let's zoom back out again and kind of just get a perspective of where we're at. We're building the surface over here in these three. This is where we'll construct our intersecting planes, and then this is where we'll introduce a wire grid to the structure. And then this is adding thicknesses to all of those thicknesses and or panel elements. And then finally we output it to Revit. So let's go back to the next element we're going to be working on, probably the most critical conceptually, and that's these truss intersecting planes. So we do that in many of the ways, well, and similar to, I believe, how we've done some things on the wave. But let's take a look at, I'll try to highlight a few of these things. One thing we're doing over here, first thing is a sequence. We're creating some levels. So we're using the code block. We're starting at 40, and this actually could be the input for the facade, the base of the facade. That's where we're starting at. And we're going at 25-foot increments. I'm feeding that into the step. And I'm doing it 5 times. That gives us 5 sections to be cut up here. And I feed those into the z-axis to give us well, let's see if we can highlight some of these here. I'll turn the previews on for some of these things. So we can start to see the, I don't know if these will turn out blue. We can start to see these intersecting planes. So we have a bottom, a middle one, and they're not turning blue right now. So let's just take a look at what we've got here. So we've got, let's see if we can see the points highlighting. Let's see if I want to grab one of these points. All right, so you can see the 0 point down there. You can see the next point up. So these are all just giving us starting points of the facade. And then we generate a line from that. So we have the start point. We create a vector. The vector happens to be in the x direction, so we're moving along this line to create that. And the length is tied over here to the facade length, or the facade width, excuse me. So that gives us this line, which is highlighted in blue now. And then what we do, and I'll turn the preview on for that, is we thicken that curve. All right, so we take that line and we expand it on both sides. So we're using, let's see what functions we have in here. We're using that same vector to thicken up the line, and we're thickening it by 50 feet. So if you have errors in the way this thing intersects, that would be the one of the places to troubleshoot it. I'm going to turn that into a surface by doing surface by patch, and I'll turn the preview on for that. And now you can see how we have a top, we have our 5 intersecting planes. So we have our new surface, our intersecting surfaces that we're going to use to generate this actual curve line. And this happens to be lining up with the sine wave, but you can see how these don't actually generate lines where they're intersected, and that won't happen until we get to this geometry intersect. So I'll turn the preview on for that, and now you'll see those highlight. And I think I can select them to get them to turn blue. So you can see all of those lines are turning blue. They're just not showing up quite clearly down here. So anyway, that's the intersection between this surface, which is connected to the other one. That if we go back over here, and this is probably critical to show you. That's the facade surface. And the other one is all of the intersecting planes. So we have 5 surfaces coming out of here. So it's just one of the important things is to think about how we can take 5 pieces of geometry and use only one and go through 5 reiterations of that addition and subtraction. So that gives us our front intersecting plane. This other one that's happening over here, and I call this truss depth, is we take that same line now and we just move it back. So if I take this and make this preview this, and we look back here, we see this highlighted line here. And I'll turn the preview on for this and then try to select it to see if we can get it to show up. All right, so now if you look back here, we have this blue line, and that is the indication of how the truss depth, that is the distance from where the align was originally created. If we look at this number 4 up at the top, that's the starting point there, and then the blue line would be the one in the back. And let me go ahead and rotate this. I probably should have done this a while ago. All right, so we see that's the point, and this is a translated line that gives us that back plane. Now remember, the gray thing that we have highlighted right now is really just was old geometry. We're no longer using it. So where we're really at right now is to turn some of that geometry off. So let's go ahead and I'm going to turn the surface. See, I always get this hand here. If I click on a number, it'll disappear. I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to turn off the thickening of the curve. And now we see a more accurate portrayal of where we're at with our geometry currently. All right, so I still have an original line showing that straight line. But we have now our reference for grabbing the front line, the front curvy line, and the back line to create our truss system. So next we'll look at creating that into a surface and then adding our truss elements to it.